What is that?
Here we go.
What everyone wants to know is what this
The Catholic Man Show
LG means.
contains high levels of manliness. If you think you may be too weak to withstand the manliness represented in the following program, please do yourself a favor and stop listening now. If you choose to continue in spite of this warning, if at any time you feel yourself overcome by the manliness, stop immediately and consult your closest medical professional. And now, for the not-so-fair, faint, or frilly, we present The Catholic Man Show.
And welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side, so raise your glass. I'm Adam Minahan here, sitting in studio with David Niles to my right, and to my left I have a very special guest, a dear friend that we had a great conversation with last night, Dr. John Cuddeback. Dr. John Cuddeback, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
It is a delight to be here.
It's morning time, so we're not going to do whiskey, beer. We're going to stick with coffee.
Yeah.
And blueberries.
And blueberries. Yes,
Yeah.
my wife took my kids to a farm a couple days ago and had the boys and Anna pick blueberries.
Thunderbird.
Yeah, Thunderbird Farms, which is
And the
awesome.
blueberries, it's kind of a tradition. They go. My wife's been taking the kids for several years now, anyway. Mm-hmm. And they're always good. Nice blueberries.
Let me tell you, they have a great business plan. Come over,
You can pay us.
to pick our blueberries.
Right.
It's a great business model.
And great blueberries.
Yes.
Yeah, it's almost Tom Sawyer-ish. You know, it's like, well, if you give me $1, I'll let you whitewash this fence for me. But I'm having a really good time.
Yeah.
So, not just anybody gets to do it.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So we're not going to stick to our regular format this morning because, like I said, it's morning time, and we have Dr. Cuddeback, and we have so many questions that we want to ask him.
Yeah.
So we're not sticking to the man beverage, man gear, man topic format. We're just going to basically go right into the topic. Is that right, Dave? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, we're just going to plow right into it.
Okay. I'll let you go first.
Boldly. Well, first of all, Dr. Cuddeback, you are a professor at St. John...
No, Christendom College.
Christendom College. What was I was going to say John Chrysostom. Isn't there another... I get these... Isn't there... There's a saint like John
Chrysostom.
Chrysostom, yeah.
That's what you're...
I get them confused all the time.
Some people call Christendom Chrysostom.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But you're a professor at Christendom College.
I am.
In Virginia.
I am indeed. I am. I've
and you
been there
teach
25
philosophy.
years. I'm teaching philosophy, and I'm still loving it.
What is philosophy?
That is a good question. A deep question. Would take it a long time to answer.
But yeah, stay a while. No.
That's right.
So
Keep thinking.
So we had you here last night for the St. Michael Radio. You gave an excellent talk.
Thank you.
On basically being intentional Catholics within the household. You have a book called. Juan, will you go to the Bev cam really fast there, so that way people can check that out. True Friendship. So we wanted to talk to you about friendship.
Really
Right.
good book. Easy to read. You know,
Thank
just right down to it.
That was the idea.
I don't like it when people use the word pithy for a book, but because it's like overplayed. You know, everybody says that about books, but it really is.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It was the fruit of a lot of teaching and learning what really moved people and helped change their lives. So it was a great opportunity to take some of the insights of the classroom from the ancients and try to package them for a broader audience. So I was trying to make it both pithy, if I may, and accessible.
I liked it because I tried to read Aristotle, and that was hard.
Did you get the categories down?
Yeah. I mean, so then when I read your book, I said, should have just read this. This is much better.
Well, reading Aristotle takes practice.
Yeah.
And that's what going to Christendom is for. Mm-hmm. Really,
sure.
Aristotle, in general, it's difficult to just pick them up and jump in. But in the classroom, we can do that by a sustained, effort over time, working together, building up. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's appropriate to try to distill some of those things. And hey, not everyone's going to have the opportunity to get that education.
Right.
So try to bring that, to those people.
But you're also a husband and a father
of 6.
I am.
Yes,
I am indeed. I like to say my wife and I raised our children on the banks of the Shenandoah in the shadow of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And
that sounds pretty cool.
It's a beautiful, beautiful place and a beautiful community. I count myself very blessed.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
You also have a website, baconfromacorns.com, correct?
That's right.
Did I get that URL correct?
Indeed.
I can never remember if it's
bacon
acorn from bacon, bacon from acorns.
The most common mistake is acorns to bacon.
Yes.
It's bacon.
Something, yeah, I probably have made that mistake.
That's okay.
Bacon from acorns.
It is. Because the focus is on the bacon.
Which is natural. Yeah,
which has come from, by God's loving providence, the acorns that have been consumed by the pigs.
Right.
Must there be any doubt? And
I'm glad they like acorns. I don't personally like acorns. No.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
But you like them once they've been transformed.
Right. Indirectly.
That's right.
Through the pig, I do really like them.
So before we get into friendship, I do want to ask this question about bacon, because this is a very important topic for me.
It's an important topic.
The principle of diminishing returns has to happen when it becomes too thick of bacon. But where is that cutoff?
Yeah.
Where is the cutoff of too thick of bacon where you don't get it any longer?
So many of life's important questions have been mistaken for this one. They thought this is really what they were trying to figure out. They got it confused for other things.
I've seen it happen myself.
Yeah.
Particularly when the hours I have spent cutting bacon by hand. And so each piece is a slightly different thickness. And so I've had all these opportunities to try every possible thickness.
Right.
And so it's kind of a secret.
Oh.
I can't share with you the exact right thickness. If you come to my house, you will experience it at breakfast.
Oh,
otherwise, you're kind of on your own.
Oh, that's cruel. That is cruel.
Road trip.
Yeah.
Campouts in Virginia this year, guys.
You want to talk about the camp out just really fast?
Okay, yeah.
Because he's going to Clear Creek right after this.
Right, yeah. So, Dr. Cuddeback, you're a fan of Clear Creek, just like everyone here on the Catholic Man Show.
Big time.
We have our annual camp out. It's coming up the last weekend of October, the 25th of October?
24th through 27th?
Yeah. And then recently it came to my attention that my wife's birthday is in the middle of those dates when she pointed it out to me. Which I did know, just had not occurred to me yet. But anyway.
There's different kinds of knowledge.
Yes, indeed. So many. But camp out's 24th through the 27th, 26th, what did you say?
27th, yeah.
Through the Sunday. So
we'll have
sign-ups are not available yet, but first come, we get first priority to our Council of Man Patreon supporters. So if you want to make sure that you can come, join us on Patreon, and you also get other cool stuff that we'll send to you. But it's always a blast. We eat with the monks. We pray with the monks. Maybe,
Wine cooks a pig.
Maybe we throw axes at stuff.
Yeah, we do a little axe throwing. Are we doing the forging? Are we going to the forge shop?
I think that the probability of having the forge tour is very high this year.
Very good. So,
I cannot say one way or the other. I have not confirmed, but
okay.
Relationships were greatly improved last year.
Yes. So that's exciting.
So I think so.
So you can go to thecatholicmanshow.com and to find out more information on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So where do we want to start with friendship? We only have about 3 minutes left on this segment.
Okay, so we
can probably get going.
I mean, this is, I think, there's a couple things, Dr. Cuddeback, I think you're known for. Friendship is one of them, because you wrote a book about it. So that's what we want to talk about today. And when I read your book, one of the things that I was, kind of surprised to think about, which I had never really thought about, is that not everyone is even really capable of having an authentic friendship. Well, maybe it's not that they're not capable, but not in their present state capable.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they would be capable, but...
That's a great place to start. We're made for friendship. We're capable of it if we know what we're about and we're willing to do certain things. And we need to figure out what those are. And so that is really my main focus, to try to discern what the astoundingly beautiful plan is that God has intended for us in designing us for friendship. And we need to, with humility and with courage, investigate what that is. So I like to say, as any other great good in life, we need to know what we're about. We need to know what it is we're looking for so that we can be intentional in pursuing it. And this really applies in spades to friendship. We all know we want it, but do we really stop and discern what is this reality? What needs to obtain? What needs to happen? What do we need to do? What do we need to become if this is really going to be possible?
Do you have just a good definition of friendship?
I like to say, as kind of a shorthand, it's sharing one good life or living one good life together.
Okay,
That's kind of my shorthand for it.
So it has to be a shared life in common.
It is.
And it's good life because that's taking the Thomas, principle of what the definition of love. Willing the good for the other. So you're kind of intertwining the love with friendship.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's why long distance friendships are very difficult.
Very, very difficult. One of the great questions Aristotle asked and answered. Can you do it? Yep.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll get to that.
All right.
We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass. That quote is that we're on the Lord's team, the winning side. That's from Pope Benedict.
He said that on his 88th or 89th birthday. They gave him a big old stein of lager, one of his favorite German lagers. And they kind of were all on pins and needles waiting to hear what he was going to say when they handed it to him. And so he grabbed it and said, "We're on the Lord's team, the winning side, so raise your glass."
Really?
And then we totally took that from him.
Is that on film? Was that caught
I
on
don't know
video,
if it was
or just it's been reported?
I think it's just been reported.
I would love to get a visual.
I would
on
love.
that.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it, of him raising the glass with the stein that they're talking about, but I don't think I've ever seen the video.
Okay.
And of course, he would have said "Wie ist unser," whatever.
Yeah, in German.
Yeah,
he would have said it in German.
Actually, it would have been "wir." That's we. "Wir ist," whatever. I took German a long time ago.
I can tell.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Meaning the long part.
The long
part.
Yeah.
That's all right. I mean, there were a couple of words in there that were German.
It's really just an accent at this point. Yeah.
Which can get you a long way in life, really.
That's true.
Apparently, this guy knows German.
Did you hear that? He speaks in a German accent. I'll bet he's German.
In Venezuela, there's a big German community. So
Really?
you would see this
Okay, right,
huge,
yeah.
6-foot blonde guy, and
What are the Germans doing in Venezuela?
They just had a colony that they established a long time ago.
Weird.
So you would see them, and you would swear that they're. You see them here in the U.S. You say, "Oh," and then they start speaking Spanish like Venezuelan. And you're
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Now, didn't a number of Nazis go to Brazil?
Yeah.
Isn't that where they ended up?
Yeah. Once they lost, they all went to Brazil.
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
a quick picture.
Jim's going to catch a picture for us. Very good.
All right.
Thanks, Jim.
So, quick story.
Sometimes I tell people I'm going to take a picture, and I just start a video, just to see how long they'll sit there and smile. It's really funny.
That's kind of mean.
Yeah.
They're picking their teeth. And,
Right.
checking
They're
them.
like, how long is this going to take? Just, yep.
You're almost there.
You're doing great.
Okay.
So, quick story. You guys were talking about the blueberries.
Yes.
My wife took my son to the blueberry farm too,
Uh-huh.
and they picked, and when they were gonna pay, in the end you weigh the blueberries.
Right?
Son shows up and he disappeared for a while, and he comes back and he's like, "Here's the bucket," and it was empty because he ate them all.
Nice.
Well, they do say you're welcome to graze as you pick. So
Really?
yeah, you can eat all the blueberries you want while you're picking blueberries.
Wow.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's generous.
Any questions, Jim, before we can get going? Okay. Let's roll into the next one. Any questions, Jim, before we can get going? Okay. Can you? I'm having deja vu.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles here with Adam Minahan and Dr. John Cuddeback from the University from Christendom College. It's like I'm going to get it right. In the
I
end.
believe in you.
Thank you. One of these days I'll get it right without making a mistake.
I'm trying to believe.
Yeah. That's enough, I think. Yeah.
I hope so.
For me it is. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about authentic friendship. Right before, at the very end of the last segment, we kind of got a definition about friendship is having a shared life, a life in common. One of the things that you point out in the book is that Aristotle says you cannot pursue, the good life, something he calls the good life, must be a part of a real friendship. There's different levels of friendship, but if you want to pursue an authentic friendship, one that's not just about utility or I get something out of this relationship. If you're really pursuing a relationship where you're putting the other person's good at the end of the relationship, as the end of the relationship, what is the good life that he talks about?
Well, he studies friendship in the Nicomachean Ethics. It comes towards the end of the 10 books, and it's books 8 and 9 where he goes over friendship. But he doesn't look at friendship until he's also gone through all of the other virtues. And so, in a word, he has already established his basic point that, it's so beautiful, always worth returning to be living virtuously is to be happy. It's so important to see. He doesn't see what we call happiness. Remember, from happiness is not a feeling. It is a flourishing way of being. Happiness is not a reward for having been virtuous. Being virtuous is being happy. It is to be what you were designed to be. You are fulfilled in precisely living the virtuous life. So he's already secured that point. He's already made this, shared this fundamental insight, developed this insight, and gone through the different virtues. Then, wonderfully, it's this kind of culmination. He says, all right, now let's talk about friendship. Because we all know from experience, even if you had everything else in life, you wouldn't even choose to live if you didn't have friends. And so he says that the friendship itself is a kind of virtue, though it's different from the others, because, of course, it's not just a habit I have in myself. It's this kind of mutual shared thing. But it comes after it primarily because he's saying to have the real deal, it is what friendship is in reality, the most important kind. It's going to be sharing the virtuous life that you have developed. So that's why you need to understand, first of all, what the virtues are. We need to have a sense of what we are called to be so that we can then see, and real friendship will be to be pursuing that and doing that together with the persons that we love.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And really, in the end, I think that friendship helps you pursue those virtues. They kind of feed off of each other.
It absolutely. In fact, one of the great things we look at when we go through this is there can seem to be a contradiction. Aristotle is certainly trying to convey to us you can't really do friendship unless you're virtuous. But then, how do people really best become virtuous? In the context of pursuing it with friends. So it can seem to be a little bit of the, well, which comes first? Don't each require the other? And I think, in a sense, the kind of straightforward answer to that is they do, in some real way, require one another, which fundamentally means you pursue them both at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. When Dave and I talk to guys, and Dave and I have been friends since we've been about 5 years old, and so we didn't realize that wasn't a common thing, right? To just have a childhood friend that you grew up with, and, until we started talking to other guys, and then it seems like that they have friends, and then maybe the friends aren't necessarily virtuous men, and they realize, I need to get back onto this straight path, the straight and narrow path. I need to become a virtuous man. And what does that do? But that isolates them from the group, and there's a time where they feel very alone, because the friends that they had necessarily weren't true friends, like what you talk about in your book,
Right.
because it wasn't founded in virtue at all.
Right.
And so they feel a little lost.
Right.
Do you see that at Christendom? I mean, dealing with 18, 20-year-olds all the time?
Oh, I see it. I see it everywhere. I mean, friendship is such a treasure, and Scripture says, the man who has found, paraphrasing, the man who has found a true friend has found a rare treasure. I mean, it really is rare. I mean, I bet that with you two, there came a point that you realize, even if you can't point to a particular time that you remember, where in your maturing together, you kind of discovered we're at a whole new place now, and you were still sharing this aspect that's clearly central to both of you of, you want to grow in holiness. You want to become a certain kind of man. And so you didn't even really reflect upon it. You already had that more immature, but healthy, normal, and good relationship as a child. But I mean, this is the thing about the term friend. You say we've been friends since we were 5 years old. You were something very different when you were 5 years old than you are now.
Sure.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And now you are sharing a life together in a much more rich way. And you now have much more of a sense of what it really means to be human, what it really means to live a human life, and now you are able to intentionally pursue that together. I think there's lots of people who maybe had those, quote, friends, and again, the term can be used in that way in a much more loose sense when they're young or high school or college, but then, I mean, does it ever really become anything else? Which is very much dependent upon, where am I? Am I recognizing who I am, what I need to be, these kind of fundamental questions of life? And additionally, then my friend over here, and as you say, you can often end up being isolated.
Right.
You realize we don't share that anymore. So what do we share? Friendship is always some kind of sharing. It's always some type of commonality. And there are much more limited commonalities that we can have. But then there's the deeper commonalities that are really a sharing in a completely, I won't say completely, a profoundly new way. That's a type of thing that many have not really realized. You can be this close with another human being. You can have this much in common. You can be this much alive together. But again, there's only specific ways really that can be done. And if I may just say one further thing, then one of the great lies of our society, which leads to so much unhappiness, is not bringing out the truth that really the only way to really be close to those we love, to really be together with them the way we so naturally yearn, is if we are willing to live in that upright way that even nature and supernature calls us to.
Yeah, and one thing that always astonished me is that Aristotle is a pagan. He doesn't have...
He was a bad pagan.
Well, I mean...
based on just, he had so many great real truths that he picked out that were almost divine that he was... It just seemed like he wasn't very...
Well, it just goes to show you how God has...
Okay, so I just didn't understand. You're saying he wasn't very good at being a pagan.
Yeah.
Right.
But he came to all of these deep truths without any revelation, from any divine revelation, other than what is just naturally present that God has, put into the world in our nature. And it's just, I don't think I would have ever gotten there if I was him.
And the thing is, St. Thomas explicitly points out that what the light of nature or natural reason can show us, in what, in fact, historically, in reality, it does show us, or what people do come to see, are two very different things. But Aristotle stands in God's providence, and this was perhaps a particular gift of divine providence. Certainly the fathers of the church speak that way. We can see what the light of natural reason itself shows us. That doesn't mean that everyone is going to come to that by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a nice reminder of the profundity of the gift of natural reason itself. But then as Christians, we have a whole new basis for appreciating friendship. Of course, I mean, let's just cut to the chase. In John 15, it's 15:15, I believe, of that stunning, that jaw-dropping, that life-changing line, "I have called you friends." It is just a stunning revelation, and it means something. It means something very specific. And for me, this is a great example of why I love philosophy so much. Going to Aristotle and really studying earnestly, just by the light of natural reason, what friendship means. It gives us a foundation. It gives us a sense of the great reality that's captured in this term. And I just kind of imagine to myself that when our Lord said, "I have called you friends," that he in his own mind is thinking, now, how will people be able to hear this? Right? This reality, this is the way it always is with revelation, that there has to be a certain natural understanding so that we can understand what our Lord is trying to say to us. So if we have a shallow view of friendship, then reading John 15 where it says, "I've called you friends," what does that say to us? Does it just go kind of right over our head? But if we are trying to understand, but even just by the light of natural reason and by experience, what real friendship is, the more that we see that, the more then when you hear our Lord say that word, you have a sense of, oh my goodness, is he really calling us to do that with him?
And if you think, sharing common life is one thing. Common life with God, that's a totally different thing. And I want to come back to that.
Absolutely.
We're talking about authentic friendship here with Dr. John Cuddeback. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass. It really is mind-blowing thinking about
It's totally.
a common life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is.
I think I have more downstairs. I think Haley made more downstairs.
Okay.
If you'd like.
So
we can get some. Maybe.
I'll wait for the next episode. I don't want
I
to.
like to move from the mic when I try to put it closer. There.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is he not? Is he not coming in loud enough? I can hear him pretty well.
I can see in the waves that it's just like.
It's
a little lower.
That's
okay.
That's plenty.
That's good.
Yeah, that's plenty.
This is the.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay because we normalize it all, so it'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions, Jim?
It's so fruitful to look at, literally. Excuse me while I have some more blueberries. The different aspects of concretely how Aristotle says that friendship is lived out, and then to say, what translate that into our Lord, what our Lord is saying.
Yeah.
In fact, if you look at the next couple verses there in the Gospel, our Lord says, "I have called you friends because all that I've heard from the Father I have shared with you."
Mm-hmm.
So this is, I like to say, it's a very Aristotelian understanding of friendship because he's saying, I'm sharing my worldview.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sharing my heart. I'm sharing my understanding with you. So now we can be of one mind and one heart. I've shared all this with you.
Yeah.
Which is, to the extent that we've been reflecting on friendship, we then say, so yeah, that's exactly what good human friends do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, again, you have a contact, you have a connection point. We see, of course, he's telling us his heart.
Right. So did Aristotle believe in multiple gods?
No.
He didn't.
No.
Did he believe in a god?
He did. Yep.
So he was pretty Christian. I mean, as Christian or as Jewish.
Right.
He wasn't Jewish, but
right.
A deist almost.
So he was a monotheist.
Honestly, I think he's better than that.
So what would you say?
He's better than a deist.
Oh, okay.
I think. No, I mean, we'd want to be careful to what exactly do we mean by deism, and
Right.
I mean, comparisons can be tricky, but I think at the end, I mean, there's disagreements on exactly what Aristotle held. I think deism has a God that's more removed. I actually don't think that Aristotle's God is as removed as the deist God.
Yeah.
That's
Very
why-
interesting.
That's
Because
what I'm saying now.
deism is more of the
Clockmaker.
clockmaker,
Watchmaker,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, clockmaker.
Um,
But he did believe in a prime mover, correct? Isn't
He
that
did.
even what he said?
Absolutely, yep. And of course, well, I don't want to get you on a technicality. The kind of neat thing is, the word for him is believe is not. I mean, this is the way we say the word.
Right.
Do you believe in? And but actually, that's not even really a precise use of the word believe, because believe means to take something true as true on the authority of another. Aristotle's not believing in like a revelation of God. He has reasons to the existence of God, and so he wouldn't use the word believe. He'd just say, "I know.
This is
It's been. I can prove this."
So what did he think of Judaism? Did he say? I mean,
He doesn't know about Judaism.
that just wasn't even, nobody knew about
That's
it
not-
in his
let's put it this way.
area.
I don't know if you'd say nobody knew about it,
Right.
but they wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't significant for them.
Uh-huh.
Just another people
Fascinating.
over there doing their thing.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird to call him a pagan.
Well,
If
this is the thing. What's the word pagan mean? This is why I completely understand now what you said. By the way, I didn't mean to be making faces at you like I did.
That's okay. I was looking this way, so I didn't even see him.
Okay.
So it was behind my back.
Good. Might do it again then.
yeah.
I mean, if you're taking pagan as having a negative connotation when you say he wasn't a very good one, but of course, in the word pagan in our use as Christians does have a negative connotation, because in general it means someone who is not going the Christian
Who's
route.
rejected the Christian faith.
Basically,
Right, yeah.
Right. So when you just kind of say the ancient pagan, it is really nothing other than a general term for, someone who doesn't have the benefit of divine revelation, and he has some view that's just a naturalist view. There doesn't need to be anything negative about the term necessarily. Other than the fact that the vast majority of them were, well, St. Augustine kind of implies that they even, whether they knew it or not, were kind of worshiping demons.
Right.
So there's a lot of bad stuff going on, but not necessarily, right? And so you can have the term the noble pagan, right? Aristotle was a noble pagan.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I'm trying to split hairs, but I'm not sure that's being a bad pagan. You only say
Depends
he's a
on what you
bad
mean by
pagan if pagan
pagan.
already means in it something bad.
Right.
Then you're saying he's not being good at being a bad
Yeah.
pagan.
Because they didn't have the
Double
good to
negatives.
reject. They were just
Right.
doing.
Right. And it's not. I mean, how about the Magi?
Yeah.
They weren't bad pagans. They were good pagans. They were open to.
Yeah.
Now there's a possibility they say that there had been that there was still the fruit of what the Jews had shared when they had been in exile over there in the East, and so the Magi might have been in a tradition that had been directly influenced by Judaism, but I don't think you would say that they were Jews,
Right.
but that so but there's always it's amazing sometimes. You can have the light of natural reason just particularly shine in people that haven't had Christianity at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have
Two more segments.
What do we want to cover exactly? Like, do we want to make sure we hit on some points?
Well, we're progressing ultimately towards the point of friendship being a sign or pointing towards friendship with God.
May I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
We could in the next segment just say, let's talk about different friendships, different
Different
kinds of friendship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's a couple things there that I think are worth noting.
Okay.
And
Good.
yeah.
I
Sure.
agree. I
Yeah.
think that's a good distinction.
Then we could circle back on the last one to
Okay.
to talk. Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
Good. I like that.
Juan likes it, so I think we should do it.
I approve it. Here
All
we go.
right.
Juan, will you hit the record button on the vMix?
For the video.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. Sitting here with Dr. John Cuddeback, talking about friendship.
What am I, chopped liver?
I said we're sitting here.
Oh, okay.
So I implied that you were
okay.
here.
I'll let it pass.
I
forgive you.
I'm going to go into dangerous territory here and try to recall what what I read in the Summa not too long ago about St. Thomas asked the question, if we go to heaven, is God simply enough by himself? And the answer is obviously yes. But he chose to have a communion of people. There's multiple people in the body of Christ, obviously. That looks different. The friendship looks different for each aspects of life, I guess. So maybe we should talk about the people who come into our lives, the different types of friendships that they can play a role in our lives and in salvation and getting to heaven.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does that sound
Sure.
accurate?
Sure. I mean, perhaps a great place to begin is just to wonder at the astoundingly generous and beautiful plan of God that our happiness will be in communion with other persons.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, and primarily, and it would suffice. You're right, St. Thomas absolutely does say it would suffice were it just you
And
God in
Mm-hmm.
heaven.
Right.
Right. So we are made for communion. The ultimate communion will be our relationship with God, which absolutely can, as we'll circle back to later, be called a friendship. But in his great generosity, he also offers us friendships with human persons that those relationships don't take away from our relationship with him. They actually
Enhance.
build towards it. Indeed, let me give you a line. Here's just an absolutely beautiful point from St. Alred. St. Alred is the great medieval writer who wrote a great book called Spiritual Friendship.
I'll have to check that out. I'm not aware of that one.
It's a masterpiece.
St. Alred.
Alred,
I've never even heard of him.
A-E-L-R-E-D. Spiritual Friendship. He was a Cistercian. And he beautifully says that in all of our relationships, but especially in friendships, from the start, God is at work preparing us for our friendship with him. That is God's plan. But so there's this beautiful aspect of our friendships with human persons are a kind of instrument leading us towards God, but not, as it were, a mere instrument, because it's also a kind of participation in our relationship with God. So God, again, in his generosity, wants us to have these real, profound, and deep relationships with human persons that are part of who we are. Now, what you started to point to there, Adam, is there's different kinds, and there are different levels. And this is more than we're going to be able to sort out, but let's just start with the point. A wise man, you want to live a good life and respond to God's generous plan as it's been given to us, we need to learn to discern what the differences between the relationships we have with different people in our lives. A relationship with parents is a beautiful and key one. It's different than any other. It needs to be respected and lived for what it is. There can ultimately be, probably won't be able to address this, there can be a kind of friendship, although in general that's not, you don't so much in general speak of your parents as your friends. It's a different kind of relationship, although there can be an aspect of friendship. But let's go with when Aristotle distinguishes between kinds of friendship. His famous distinction is between the friendship of pleasure and utility, and then the friendship of virtue. And a mistake that a lot of people make is they think, that friendship of pleasure and utility, which is more rooted in pleasure, we have a good time together. Utility, we provide something for one another. There's a usefulness to this. People assume, this is a difference between good and bad.
Right. Those are selfish friendships,
right.
I think.
Right. And they can be selfish, but they are not necessarily selfish.
Right.
So one of the things that I like to focus on is you can have a friendship of pleasure or utility, and with a virtuous person, if you are virtuous, and really what we're seeing there is this friendship doesn't have the time and the context to go into a deeper kind of sharing. And so it really isn't much more than, hey, we have this much together. I mean, think about this. In college, that person that you just kind of enjoyed being with, right? And there really wasn't much more. If you are both people of integrity, right? This can be a fine relationship. It is what it is. You don't pretend that it is more than it is, right? And it might just be a friendship of pleasure.
Yeah.
Now that same kind of friendship, again, if you don't have integrity, right, then that can be abused, right? So St. Thomas and Aristotle are clear. Those lower forms of friendship, by their nature, can be had really by most anybody, and then some people will do them well, and other people won't do them so well. But then there's this other kind of friendship that, part of the thing that we need to see here, and this is a very practical thing. Aristotle and St. Thomas insist this kind of friendship can only be had with a very small number of people. And this was
going to be my next question.
Well, this is
I'm
key.
glad
this
you're going
key.
there.
People, I think people you can make a big mistake on this where if you study about true friendship and hear some beautiful things about it, you can think, so I need to go out there and try to start to do this true friendship thing with kind of all these people
with
that I know.
Everybody,
right?
yeah.
And that's a serious mistake. As Alred said, friendly towards all, but rich friendship with a very small number. So what I'm most interested in, because I think it's the heart of the plan, is to learn what that fuller, deeper kind of friendship is, and then to learn how to discern with whom you can do it and what's that look like and how is it done, while not neglecting the place that these other relationships have. And so to finish this, and then you come at me with whatever you want to do. I'd say a good life, a virtuous life, a wise life, central to it is having a friendship plan that realizes the different places for the different kinds of friendships in there, and that actually allows that person to stand in great relationships with the different people according to the reality of the situation. And it's not these leaving these others high and dry. Sometimes in humility and reality, we just have to recognize maybe we would have wanted to go deeper with these people, but we can't. And you never want to pretend to have a deeper friendship than you do.
Right.
That's not reality. We need to live in reality.
Yeah, because we only have so much time. We only have so much emotional capacity, or some kind of capacity, and it just cannot be spread. Because if you just try to spread it out to too many people, you end up with relationships that are not as deep as they could be, and I think you're less fulfilled in the end.
Do you think that an issue with men having true friendships is that they don't want to be vulnerable? I think a lot of times, Dave and I, we saw an increase in our friendship, and when Juan, with Juan as well, whenever we started really exposing, like, here's what I'm struggling with, here's who I am as a person, this is something that I don't necessarily like about myself, maybe, but I need to work on this. But that's not, and it's almost like that's not a natural thing for men to do. Or it's very hard to have the atmosphere to be able to do that with somebody. Do you see that? That's the struggle for men.
No, absolutely. And there's a couple things going on here, but we can do both. I mean, note how, just to kind of hammer down the prior point, you're not going to take your deep interior struggles to 7 people.
Yeah, or to your Facebook friends.
It's just not to be done. But again, by God's loving providence and just understanding what it means to be human, indeed to be embodied. Part of this has to do with as it were, you can only speak about so much for so long. You can only be in the bodily presence and attend to so many people. To go to the other aspect, it is hard. Vulnerable literally means able to be wounded. and this is the thing, when you really give your heart, when you really love another, you are opening yourself up to be wounded. And here's where we can bring in one of the most lovely notions in Aristotle's view of friendship, and that's the friend is another self. And if you think about it, if a friend has become another self, that we fundamentally constitute that friend as another self by our attitude towards him, right? By going out in love, and think how that does make you woundable, because now, as it were, anything that person suffers, now you're going to suffer because of your deep love. I mean, to me, a very simple example of this also is and it's the same thing, although not the identical thing. You all know, once you have children, first of all, once you're married, and then you have children, you have a lot more ways that you can suffer, right? And that things that weigh upon your heart, right? Because in a sense, your heart is out there with them. This demands a lot of you and is constantly calling you out. So there's that aspect of being vulnerable. You can suffer in, with, and through them. And finally, there's so many different angles on this. There's the angle of, now you want to share yourself and then make yourself vulnerable in the sense of, yeah, actually, I'm struggling with this, or I'm failing in this way. You know, and now that really opens you up to, wow. I mean, I have to be willing to show that to the world, but if you're willing to show it, that's the beginning of being able to grow through it in a whole new kind of way.
Yeah.
Good deal. All right, so when we get back, we're going to continue this conversation on true friendship with Dr. John Cuddeback. We'll be right back.
Right back.
So, Doctor,
Time flies.
Oh yeah.
There,
It does.
you made,
Wow.
It's always like that.
You made the allusion to, like, we have a very limited resources. So do you have a number?
I mean, yeah, I do.
Are you going to share it?
I don't know.
Is it a secret like the bacon?
Well, no, it's not. I mean, two or three.
That's what I was going to say. 3 is the most, I think.
And but you know what's fascinating is I mean, of course, you've got the spouse. Now, you know, you want to spend 2 or 3 minutes on that, and the next one we can. I think it's worth doing.
Yeah, and does your spouse count as one of those 2
Well,
or 3?
that's I mean, obviously, in some sense, I mean,
because you want to talk about another self. I mean, she's,
right.
It's like we have literally the same life. I mean, we do all the stuff together.
Right. Although, I mean, how many marriage relationships at the same time, while you're kind of together, I mean, there can be an awful lot of hurt and separation.
Like
right?
people who have separate bank accounts, like you're married with. It's like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah,
you know,
setting themselves up for failures.
It's just crazy.
So, should we start the message? We haven't said where to get the book.
Oh yeah, we'll make sure to get that in there.
Okay. Maybe
Just do it on at the top so we don't run out.
Okay.
Right in the front. Book, and we haven't done the Patreon.
Focus.com/shop.
I mean, you know, maybe what I'll just do is just say go to Bacon from Acorns, and
Okay.
there's the friendship tab, and then
yeah.
and that takes you straight to Focus.
Okay.
It's easier to remember than
Okay.
because the Focus website's kind of
Well, and that way it gets people to your website anyway.
exactly.
To your website. And what about the new website? Do you want to say anything about it?
Thank you. How about this? Yeah, I mean, if you all were just 18 seconds on, hey, you're expanding you're expanding what you're doing.
Or do you want to do it in the next one?
No,
We can do it in both.
We'll do it.
Is it going to be the same website URL?
Actually, it's not. But it's so I have a new name. But I can't believe you guessed it. Darn it. My web guru doesn't want me to reveal my name yet.
Okay. All right.
Bold strategy.
So Bacon from Acorns is actually going to. It will still be formally Bacon from Acorns, but it's not going to be my thing
We'll
anymore.
look forward to the new one whenever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
One thing, your website right now is uncategorized.
Oh.
A lot of websites are this way.
Is that not good?
Well, at my office, it's blocked because, I work for a corporation and they block all uncategorized websites.
How should you categorize it?
Well, it can be, I don't know what all the categories are, but it can be categorized as all kinds of things. So with your new one, you might just make sure.
Well, these guys are supposed to be. That's something.
I'm sure they'll do it. Yeah.
Well,
you might just double check.
I am gonna check.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
It happens all the time where I try to go to a website and it's uncategorized.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is there a Facebook question?
You got a question? Go ahead.
There's a comment from Vincent there.
Why don't you? You want to read it?
So Vincent made a comment on the segment between your friends are one person in two bodies, spouses are two persons in one body.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
Just say it again. Let me hear that again.
Friends are one person in two bodies, and spouses are two persons in one body.
Spouses are kind of both.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what that would mean. I'm not. I'm not. I'm right off the bat. I'm not. Not reading. I want to think about that. There's a one body aspect to spouses that's not there in friends.
Mm-hmm.
That I grant, and that's why they're saying spouses are two persons in one body.
Yeah. But spouses are also
but
friends.
to say friends are one person in two bodies.
I think it's kind of like
sure
the
what
other
meaning
self.
of that would
like,
be.
oh, we both are the same self, kind of, maybe, I think is what he's trying to say.
Which, of course, would be true of spouses, too. So,
Right.
Sometimes a clever line like that has a good point. But, as a philosopher, though, I'm also... You want to be careful. And because you want to be careful.
Stickler for details, yeah.
Precision, not details.
Yeah.
Precision.
Clarity before agreement.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's what Aristotle said when he disagreed with Plato.
Oh, really?
He said it is onerous to disagree with a friend, but in the name of truth, I must.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something we need to talk about? Like, as a friend, you should call out your other, your friends if they're not doing the right thing?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Absolutely.
Let's see how much. Before I want to ask you this before we get the next segment started, but it'll still be on the Facebook video. We were talking in the beginning about how as you grow in virtue, you're more and more capable of being an authentic friend. And I was thinking, like, all right, well, what about the Virgin Mary? At the end of her life, basically perfected in virtue, would she have been an authentic friend to everybody? And it's like, well, at first I thought, yeah, and then I kept thinking about it, and I said, well, no, you just can't be.
No, right.
And then I even thought, well, is Christ even Christ wouldn't be friends with everybody, but it's not because of him, it's because of us.
Right. No, that
because Christ doesn't have he's got more bandwidth, than I have or even the Virgin Mary. So
these are technical terms.
pull
I
it
don't
off.
know if you philosophy professors. I don't know if they can hang with
right.
these kind of technical terms.
The
but
Lord has more bandwidth.
Yeah.
Than Dave.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure Aquinas said that. I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
No, you're absolutely right. It kind of defies our imagination. Sometimes if you're speaking to our Lord in a very intimate way, you can be tempted to think, how could you be talking to 3 million other people like this right now too, and really be giving me the attention that I need?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a very human, and understandably human one.
Sure.
But then to those that are not responding to his call, he's calling us to friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it takes two to tango. I could be conceivably capable of being your friend.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be capable of being my friend, but then we need to actually then do certain things. Otherwise, we're not friends. Friendship is not just because you're ready; it is a shared doing,
Right.
shared living.
Okay.
But the Virgin Mary would have that ache, like, when you suffer, like, if you have that authentic friend, if they suffer, you suffer. She would have had that, I think, for maybe everybody.
I mean, I think that's a fair statement. I
Yeah.
mean, so her soul is moving on a plane that, right? I mean, by grace, there, what she would have been able to suffer, for instance, even just in the Passion and entering into our Lord's suffering for the sins of all. Obviously, there's Our Lady's capacity is less, but it's profound.
It's like she would have had the fruit of a friendship with everybody just by participating so much in her son's divine life. I don't know.
I see that.
Yeah.
I think
Anyway,
we can go
before
that.
I get into heresy, I think we should start the next
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
the next
I think
episode.
that's-
I mean, it's
That-
only
you know what?
material.
You
It
know
would
what?
only be.
I think that's prudent.
it's not. It wouldn't be formal, but we try to avoid all forms of heresy here.
We do.
Yeah, because it's prudent.
And righteous.
Yeah,
And the virtue of justice
and love.
and always charity.
How many virtues can we mention before we start?
We're done.
I'm done. Yeah.
What about the virtue of decorum?
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan and Dr. John Cuddeback. Hope you're enjoying the episode. It's a very friendly conversation we're having. There's a lot really we want to get to in this last segment. I'm a little suspicious on whether we're going to be able to do it or not. But if we don't, there is something that you can do to continue this conversation with yourself via Dr. Cuddeback's book. Go to baconfromacorns.com and you can get his book, What is Friendship?
True friendship.
Okay, I'm just looking at the back. What is true friend? What's the title? I can't see.
True friendship.
It's just called True Friendship. So go get it. I've read it. It's wonderful. Quick read, but very deep. So anyway, you're also going to be launching a new website soon.
I am.
Shrouded in some mystery a little bit,
A little bit of mystery.
Yeah.
But the idea is going to be basically the same as the current one. My passion there is to bring the things I've been blessed to be able to be sharing with undergrads for years now, these incredible insights of the ancients, and try to make them accessible and so we can see how to live them in the particular challenges that we have today. So that's the my main focus, particularly thinking about family, household, relationships. I'm also going to be doing some things on the nature of good work and on stewarding nature. So I'm expanding the kind of topics I'm going to be bringing Aristotle and Plato and the ancients to, and making videos and more kind of resources available.
Sweet. Awesome.
So
awesome.
thanks.
So go to baconfromacorns.com. You can sign up to get notified when the
exactly.
new website
And you
launches.
send out
Yeah.
everything
right.
every Wednesday. You send out something.
That's right.
So
If you sign up, that's what you get. It's just
Yeah.
it's the Wednesday quotes.
So you can
Brief
follow Dr.
reflection.
Cuddeback on LinkedIn even. I follow you on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook too.
On Facebook,
There was a
yeah.
Bacon from Acorns page there.
Yeah.
There you go.
But also on LinkedIn.
It is.
If you're
A
LinkedIn.
big
person.
LinkedIn guy.
All right, let's
So,
get going.
Anyway. What were the things we said we were going to, they were just so, what were they? What?
Spouses.
Spouses. Okay, so yeah. In an authentic friendship, between breaks, we talked about really you can only have a few, to maybe 2 or 3 authentic friends. It just, that's the only, you only have so much time.
Yep.
How do spouses fit into this whole equation?
Yep. Well, let's do this. We can say something kind of for everybody here. Obviously, not everyone's married. Those of us who are called to be married, are married, or will be married. There is a unique. St. Thomas actually says of the spousal relationship, they are the greatest of friends. There are unique challenges there, but all the principles that he talks about in friendship, shared life. A couple of things just to note quickly. That's lived especially in conversation. When a friend's most alive, the most alive in rich conversations. We have to learn. Friends know how to be in the presence of one another. They need to know how to share their life in the most deep and profound and human ways. And there's conversation, and there's conversation. In many ways, our
Right.
our culture is hindering our ability, is stripping us of the contexts and the habits of how to really be present and share ourselves in an intellectual and spiritual way. So just that is a quick kind of sidebar, and that's a centerpiece of understanding, particularly the deeper the friendship, the deeper the intentional conversations that are going on. Let's come over to spouses. I mean, I like to say, when are spouses most alive together?
I can
In the
tell
Marriage
you.
Act.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to disagree.
Okay.
Sweet.
I am.
Okay.
With due respect.
Yeah.
I think that is a unique focal point of shared life. It's a unique kind of height. There is no other expression that has that power and is so uniquely expressive of total donation in marriage.
Yeah.
It's a complete giving of oneself to the other.
It is, or in any case, it should be.
Should
right?
be.
I mean, it's by its nature, it's a sign and kind of embodying of it, right? Okay, but at the same time, when are we most alive together? I'm going to present. I mean, you could say, well, what exactly do you mean by that? Good question. But
I like how
Thank you.
I like how he.
yeah, okay.
We're not very good at this, so you just ask the questions and.
That's what I'm just going to do from now on.
Right, yeah.
All right, so let me tell you.
Yeah.
I gave a great interview today.
Best I've heard you give, a long time. I mean, let me put it this way. Another thing I like to say to married couples: where do you think your marriage is going to be made or broken? Is it in bed, or is it in your rational communication and conversations? And I think it's the latter. Now, these are deeply intertwined, right? But again, there's so much we could go into. I think this is where men particularly need to learn from the women. Our wives have a natural sense of the personal and of personal presence, and even the marital act itself, I think for women, and I know we're going into deep waters here, can be a very disappointing thing if they aren't experiencing that this is of a piece with. That this is a further expression of the communication and conversation that most expresses who we are. And I'm not telling you all you're wrong.
No, I think that's a really good point.
I think it depends on what you meant by fully alive as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because also,
and also we're also responding from a man's perspective, which is only half of the answer.
But the act of potentially creating life could also mean
is unique. It's unique.
Being fully alive.
It's irrepeatable. Although I mean, consider this. I mean, where Aristotle, where the Blessed Mother and Saint Joseph completely alive with one another.
Yeah.
I think they were.
Okay, checkmate.
Our friends in heaven are, now there's no giving and taking in marriage, but I certainly trust I'm going to have a very special relationship with my wife. And I mean, a sharing of our full persons.
Yeah.
In this life, we have this incredible gift of that unique sign of the marital act, which then is blessed with being fruitful. Again, I'm taking nothing away from the power of it, but note, I mean, how many experience in their married life that the marital act actually ends up being a bone of contention.
Yeah.
It ends up being something, again, that particularly, I mean, there's an immediate kind of, say, enjoyment from the male part, just by the difference between man and woman, where it's kind of more, dare I say, easily experienced as, wow, we are so together. Whereas I think this other point that I'm expressing, the deepest way that humans are together is in a fully personal and rational way. And the marital act can be most itself, and is most itself, when spouses are kind of most alive, I think, in their rich communication, trusting conversations.
Yeah, and I think John Paul II, when he was commenting on the sign, what is the sign of the sacrament of marriage? He said that it's actually difficult to say. Was it the marital embrace, or was it the the shared common life together, the everyday. What is because all the sacraments have a sign, and marriage is kind of difficult to pin down exactly what it is. And so I think he said in the end it's both, because you can't really separate the two.
Well, this, if I may, I'm going to interrupt, but St. Thomas, in just arguing why it is the greatest friendship, said because friendship by definition is a sharing of one life together, and he just says look at these two simple aspects of the spousal relationship. They share their days together. There is no other way of kind of sharing a whole life the way that spouses. And he said, and they share the marital act.
Yeah.
So between these two things, which very much are to feed off of one another and to be a part of one another, you have this beautiful sharing in a unique way.
Yeah.
All right, let's set that aside for a moment, or keeping it in mind. Men especially need male friendships.
Yes.
Always. And I like to say, if we're going to be the husband we need to be, that we want to be, we need to have strong male relationships also. And indeed, while we can learn much from our wife about how to be a good husband, we need good husbands to also teach us, mentor us, reflect with us, be there with us in helping us understand how to be a good husband.
Right.
And so again, in that beautiful panoply of the different relationships that we have, it feeds back into that spousal relationship, but it's essential, and it's an incredibly beautiful thing in its own right. It doesn't take away from our marriage. It actually supports it. And I also like to say, leading up to marriage, I mean, good male relationships. This is part of the problem of starting to date, court too soon. Men need to be forged into men in manly relationships primarily. Those who move into romantic relationships very early on, it tends to take them away from the kind of strong male relationship that can really be forging their manly character.
I agree.
Preparing them for marriage.
So we only have a couple seconds left.
Okay.
What do you think is the purpose? God created us this way to we have to give ourselves away, in friendship. Why did he do that? Why is it that he made us so oriented towards relationship?
Now that is a great question. And let's just try to get a little glimpse of something that there'll always, always be much more to say. In answer to that question, I truly say I'm deeply convinced it will always be more to see. It is a way of his sharing his life, which is of the deepest communion with us, and inviting us to experience that with other human persons. A beautiful gift in itself, and that prepares us to do it with him.
With him, right.
Boom.
Yeah.
We're going to do one more episode with Dr. John Cuddeback, so be sure to check that out. Next week, we're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
And cheers to Jesus.
Amen.